Well, the middle of September is upon us, and there is plenty of harvest activity that is already happening across parts of the Corn Belt, and we presume more to be on the way here over the next week or two. We're going to take a look at how that weather is shaping up for some of this harvest activity. Joining us now, Eric Snodgrass with Nutrient Ag Solutions. Eric, great to catch up with you again this week, and we appreciate the time. Let's focus on this past weekend before we jump ahead to the week ahead. I know some areas of the country did get some decent rains. Talk about just what we saw over the weekend, Eric.
Yeah, we had a front that sagged through the Midwest and brought in some rain. In fact, around Chicago, locally very heavy rain, a lot of flooding down there in Calumet City, which is if you've ever watched the Blues Brothers, that's a big big city in that movie. Anyway,
Mhm.
we saw some real heavy rain that got into the southeast as well, and we watched Hurricane Lee just clip parts of like Cape Cod and Maine. But this is what's interesting. You think back to the way this summer finished. It was a weird year, right? Super dry May, June. Then it rained like mad through July and August in most places in the Midwest. And then it shut all off again. Mississippi's, nearly 10 feet below low stage right now. We've got to get more moisture into it. And we have an expansive area in the midsection of the country that is just has soil moisture values that are very low. So you said harvest, right? Yeah. It was a little windier, it was warmer, and it was dry. And so you get that combination, and all of a sudden we see these moisture values in the crop drop, and you got guys that are out just running fast here in mid-September. Now, it is mid-September, which means we still have 45 more days of the hurricane season to go, and we could get, because the Gulf of Mexico is primed for it, a system to come up through it. But I don't have one forecast. I mean, it's just right now the Gulf is relatively quiet. And so this week's going to be all about watching a system late in the week come out of the western part of the United States.
And talk about that a little bit because I've heard some rumblings as well. What are some of the areas that could get impacted? Are we going to see a lot of rain with that system potentially slowing down some of this early harvest? Eric, what's that early forecast kind of look like there?
Yeah, it all depends on how quickly it gets over the Mississippi River. So right now along I-80, I'm going to be watching the beginning of this week some chances for rainfall. There's some severe weather down in Oklahoma, but all of this is ahead of a big trough of low pressure that's digging into the northwest. And that thing's going to cut off, which means it's going to sit there for a while before it ejects into the plains. So this is going to hit the central northern plains first by the end of the week and then slowly progress through the weekend toward the Midwest. But right now, we watch the model trends really back off on the central and eastern Corn Belt rainfall. That doesn't mean we won't get it, but it just backed off of what we thought last week, and it's going to, progress through the area. But remember, in September, you could have a system like that roll through and get back in your fields two days later. I mean, you can dry out pretty quickly. So I'm yet to make the call on this major jump to really wet weather that could make the harvest problematic. But anytime there's an El Nino and you're going into fall, you want to be aware of this because, by the way, next time you and I talk next Monday, it will be fall, right? We're going to have the
Mhm.
equinox will be on this Saturday, early in the Saturday morning, and we'll be making that transition. So yeah, we'll be starting to talk about things like frost. In fact, there's some snow coming to the Rocky Mountains this week,
Hmm.
and all of a sudden our discussions just shift, right? And so there we are.
I was going to say we touched on that frost potential last week, and there was just a tiny, tiny bit out there. Any update to that? Are we seeing more frost potential this week or the week beyond here, Eric?
Nothing super early. Northern Wisconsin, UP, Michigan, parts of Minnesota could get another
Sure.
one, but we're actually going to see a nice warm up in the temperatures this week ahead of that big system coming late in the week. So, yeah, temperatures are going to go back on the rebound, which they do. I mean, it's September, man. They just go
Mhm.
up, down, up, down. We're transitioning toward fall. But as it stands, I don't, what could offset that is something big out of the tropics, and I've got
Yep.
nothing coming out of the tropics. Nigel's out there spinning around. It's going to bother the fish, and that's about it. So I'll keep a very close eye on the East Coast. There could be a weak tropical system there, but in terms of impacting ag, I don't see it being a huge player for the whole U.S. ag picture right now.
Well, and a big tropical system could maybe go a long way to help out the river levels on the Mississippi River, as the water levels are very low right now. What's the latest you're seeing watching the Mississippi River, Eric?
Well, I mean that's just it. I keep getting asked like, hey, what's it going to take to get the river up? A hurricane. I mean, you understand that right now because there's still crop in the ground and the soil's so dry that any rain that falls on that basin gets used by the crop and soil first. and so it takes a long time. So we just saw the weekend rainfall bring the river level up a foot, but it's nearly 10 feet below where no, let me rephrase it. It's 10 feet below low stage, not where it should be. It should be much higher than that. So I'm concerned about it. And the problem is, if you bring up a slow moving hurricane, you got to balance, I guess, the good with the bad. You shut down harvest progress, but you help the overall water health of the region. So yeah, we have to be careful what we wish for, this time of year.
It's something we're going to have to watch very closely, that is for sure. Eric, let's turn our attention to South America. I want to spend a little time on what's going on down there because obviously they've been having some heavy rains in parts of Brazil and Argentina, yet they're thinking about in some places getting early planting going here. So walk us through, what are you seeing South America? What's the latest with their weather outlook?
Yeah, there's a big desire. I've talked to several Brazilian growers this summer, and there's a big desire to plant as fast as possible. There always is, but it seems more earnest this year. But Mother Nature often, holds the trump card there. And so the issue is that the flow coming into Brazil is coming straight out of the east. They need it to come from the northeast. And if you just picture Brazil in your mind, that's flow coming out of the tropics. It goes across the Amazon and dumps the rain. If it comes straight out of the east, that's a subtropical high. There's no good rainfall coming out of that. So much of Brazil's dry. Now, where's it wet? Over by the Bolivian ridge, over in western Mato Grosso, and then extreme southern Brazil down in like Rio Grande do Sul, where they've had just tremendous flooding in the last 20 days. So it is just a major disparity in rainfall north to south. So don't expect to see rapid early planting. I mean, I know we're only 4 days into when they've been allowed to plant for the whole of the country. But there's an issue here with the flow not getting fully set up. And the new long range forecasts were not very generous with the rainfall in the north, but they're probably biased to what we're seeing here over the next 15 to 20 days. Argentina, we've had some wetter weather in northern Argentina, but there's still lingering drought issues across a big section, which did affect winter wheat. And don't forget, all that flooding rain in southern Brazil affected winter wheat that's grown there. So we may be needing to focus more on that than I think the rapid planting here in at least the first week of planting. So yeah, there's a lot going on in South America to watch.
Well, and you've mentioned before some of that long range forecast not necessarily pulling in the rains, and just one has to wonder, and we've touched on this and hypothesized this: if Brazil turns off the spout, goes drier earlier than they are typically used to, could that create some issues with their planting season here with this first round of soybeans? I think that's something we definitely have to keep our eyes on, Eric.
It is, but it always comes down to this, right? Once you get out of October, so it's planting. Planting is always the issue.
Yeah.
Once you get out of October, any dry forecast you see for central Brazil, you have to remember something. They can normally get 3 to 4 inches of rain a week. They have to get less than an inch before we start to talk about serious dry conditions in like Mato Grosso or Goiás, which are two big producing areas there. So it's what you said, Jesse. It's all about now and through October. Anything that compresses their crop calendar is a problem. So we need to see if these October rains come in. Right now, no model wants to give them rain, but that's because they're all stuck on this initialization problem. They just start off dry, so they can't make rain after that. It's a big kind of fault of our models. But so yes, I think the market's going to want to tell a story about it, and we'll keep an eye on reality.
We definitely will. I know if folks want to check out the latest forecast from you or get your weekly weather newsletter, they could sign up for that. We'll get the links posted under the YouTube video and on our website, but then also ag-wx.com is a great place. They can go check things out and get started. Right, Eric?
That's it. Go out there. It's all free. Nutrien puts it out there for you. And actually, Jesse, I'm pretty excited. This winter, I'm doing a full redesign of the site, so it'll be a much more user-friendly website. It's got everything on it now, but we're going to make it prettier and easier for the phone.
Those of us who are a bit of web nerds, like you and I, enjoy those things, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So, ag
Nothing wrong with being a nerd.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. ag-wx.com is where you can find all that information. Eric Snodgrass, Nutrien Ag Solutions. Thanks for joining me again this week. We'll talk to you again next week.
Sounds good.